process of writing a script. Oof, that blank page, right? That blank page is the worst. But it's also super exciting. At the beginning of my career, when I first started writing short plays and monologues, I would never outline. I just wanted to write when Cupid struck me with its magical arrow, and I would just write and something would come out, and that's not real writing. That's not real professional writing. That's amazing and fun and certainly joyful and therapeutic and cathartic. But real writing, I think, for me anyway, was once I learned the importance of outlining and the importance of rewriting. The sad truth is writer's block is not really real, in that I procrastinate a ton. It just means I'm waiting for something magical to happen in order for the writing to occur. So it's really training your brain into, all right, if I'm feeling burnt out, I need to take a walk, or I need to go for a run. I don't run, but maybe you do. I need to listen to music and just dance it out. I need to read something that's really inspiring to me. I need to watch some stuff that I think is really, really good. I think it's more about like sitting with why you're stuck and what does that mean and what do you need to push through to get to the other side of it. So for me, what makes good TV is authentic characters saying something I haven't heard a million times in a way I haven't heard it before. I think somebody broke down stories and said once that there's only like 7 stories. I think that's like a thing. So it's just about how we're telling these stories and the point of views in which we're telling these stories. So it's how do I make this story really interesting? I tend to love shows that are about stuff I haven't seen a ton. Like, I love Blackish. I think it's a great show that is different than other shows I've seen about families because of its point of view. It's talking about a very modern family that is stuck between thinking what it is to have money and be a person of color and have wealth and still be connected to who you are and what your roots are, right? I can relate to that as a Latina woman who didn't grow up rich and now now am of means, right? So that seemed interesting to me. I want to stay in touch with who I am, but I also don't want to forget who I was and where I came from. I'm in Blackish. Let's keep watching. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is just so funny. I just love these characters. They're super, super, super diverse. So many different ages and types of people, and they all have very specific points of view on things and reasons why they're so, so, so funny. And it's broad, but also grounded. Just very much my style of TV, and it just makes me laugh. So for me, I tend to watch shows about othered people because I think they're interesting. I just find those stories interesting. I just started watching Shrill, which I'm enjoying, because I love seeing an adorable woman like Adie Bryant, who it seems like somebody I'd be friends with, who's not like a toothpick person, talking about what it's like to be her walking through the world and the types of things that a character like her has to deal with. I think it's so interesting because I haven't seen that a million times. And so I'm invested. You don't have to invest, but I would highly suggest that you invest in some type of screenwriting software. Learn Final Draft, learn how to use it, get it and learn how to use it, because it will serve you as a PA, as a writer's assistant, and then as somebody who's on a staff if you already know how to work within that. And I think that it's really, really important to know how to format your scripts. And in there, it just sets it up for you so you don't really even have to think about it. You just type in like half-hour multicam and it'll work it out for you, and half-hour single camera and it'll work it out for you. So try to invest. It can be expensive, but it's something you're going to use a lot. And if this is something you want to do for your livelihood, you should probably invest in some sort of software. As somebody who came from playwriting and really just cares about how the characters talk, for the longest time I didn't read any of the scene descriptions because I didn't care. I just wanted the people talking. I'm still guilty of this sometimes when I'm reading plays. I just want to hear them. I just want the patter of the language. But it's very important. It's very important. But also, if it's like this much like description, I mean, unless you really, really need it, don't do it in as sparse a language as you can do it in. You know, like, do we need to know that the cabinet is from IKEA? Maybe, but is it important to the story? Maybe it is. If it's not, then it's a cabinet and it's just a cabinet, and that's fine. descriptors don't need to be there unless it's super essential. As much as possible, I try to keep any stage direction really sparse because I like the reader to also be able to go with the patter of the language, because the language is so much more important to me as a multicam writer and as somebody who reads multicams a lot. But it might be really important. You need to describe what's happening. If there's an assailant coming in on Brooklyn Nine-Nine that has a clown suit on, it's pretty important that you know that information for the clown jokes that are about to come up. If not, you'd be like, well, why are they making so many jokes about the guy being a clown? Because you need to know that he has a clown outfit on. So they are important, but try to be spare in how you write them. When I'm thinking about writing something new, I think about how do I want these characters to talk? What is the type of show that I'm writing? As you're writing it, you have to think about thematically what you are going for. How do you want to make people feel at the end of it? What is the journey you want to take them on? What are the character wants? And then, you know, what is the inciting incident that starts the story off? How to make your story resonate with an audience. I think the way to make a story resonate with an audience is to be honest. Be honest with whatever version of that story you're going to tell. If you're interested in it and you're really going to go there, I think it's going to be interesting. Now, how to organize your thoughts. This is why I think an outline is really, really important. I used to hate the idea of an outline because it felt like, in my young, stupid brain, it felt like it was trying to structure something that was supposed to be ephemeral. And that's just not true. The outline is actually, I think, where most of the hard work happens. That's when you're making super, super clear that you're building to these act breaks and that you're building the story so that this happens and because of this happens and because of this happens. And right, you have to build it so that people want to keep turning the pages. Because as a showrunner, there is no time to read writers. It is so wackadoo busy that you want to give them as much ammunition as possible to keep turning the pages so that they will read you and they will read to the end of the script. If I've gotten to page 8 and nothing interesting has happened, I'm probably not going to finish reading that script. I'm probably going to move on to the next one. If there's no jokes, if I don't get who the characters are and it's not clear, there's no time, man. There's no time. So you've got to try to think of that stuff early so that you're making sure that interesting things are happening on every page. Jokes are happening on every page. Something exciting is happening that makes me want to turn the page to find out what the next exciting thing that's happening is. If not, they're going to move on and you are nowhere with that specific project. I mean, I really feel like the first 10 pages have to rock. They have to crush so hard so that you're making sure that you're putting out there the very best thing you can put out there. A lot of times when I meet with young writers and they're like, I have 7 scripts, and I'm like, you do? Yeah, I have 7 things, and I'm like, are they all amazing? They're all amazing. I just don't, I'm always dubious if they are really amazing. 7 things are absolutely amazing. I mean, maybe you're that person, but I think probably everything should be rewritten. And another thing that's heartbreaking that I have to share is that sometimes I'll read a writer and I'll think, there's something here. This is not the right piece of material, but there's something here. I want to watch this person. I think there's something unique and interesting. And then a few years will go by and it'll be a hiatus, and I want to spend the weekend reading some writers, and I'll reach out to their agents and be like, what new piece of material does this person have? And they'll say, oh, just that. 2 years? There's not a new sample? You guys got to be writing constantly. You guys have to be rewriting and writing constantly. Don't rest on your laurels. But the process of writing is writing an outline and then rewriting. That's really the most important thing. Spend time writing that outline and working everything out. Because once the outline's written, then it's fun. Then it's just dialogue. That's my favorite thing. I'm gonna write dialogue till the cows come home. But the structure and making sure I'm building to something, that's all stuff I have to think about in advance. So do that work beforehand. Give yourself the gift of writing a good outline that has an inciting incident, a progressive complication, midpoint, a climax, and a resolution. If you have that cleanly laid out, then you're going to be taking us on a journey for whatever that pilot is. Okay, so we're outlining it, right? I told you to outline it. I told you to write it. Once you write it, it's not done. You got to rewrite it. And then you got to rewrite it again. I love to have actors that I know come over, invite them to read your script out loud so that you can hear it. Or have your friends that are writers that aren't gonna maybe be as great an actors come over and read. It's better if they're actors because then you can really hear how actors would do it. Anybody reading it out loud to you is so essential. Once you hear it, some things are gonna be like glaring, like, oh yeah, that's the worst, or oh, that joke is awful, or oh, I need to clarify this. Also afterwards, do a talk back. What'd you guys think? How was it to read that? Was that weird? Did it sound right? Did it sound natural? Were those jokes funny? I should punch up this area. Like, do that. You can do your own workshopping of your own script. I love having table reads for everything I've ever done. I would invite people over to my house and hear it out loud before turning it in. Just recently, I think this year was the first year I didn't do that, but I always would do that. It's fun too, it's fun. And then you could do one night you're doing your pilot and the next night you're doing her pilot and the next time you're doing his pilot, like it can be a real round table where every time, even in the listening to other people's work, you can learn so much. So pretty vital to do that. And just rewrite until you're at a point where you're like, all right, I think this is what it is, and I'm gonna now give it to my representation, or I'm now gonna submit it to screenwriting contests or TV contests or one of these diversity programs, and I'm gonna see what luck I have. And as that's out there working for me, I'm gonna start on my next thing. There are cliched things, there are stereotyped things that it's not to say that you can't do them or that you shouldn't do them, but you need to ask yourself why you're doing them and what is your specific take on them in order to be adding to the conversation. There can be an episode about gun control that's One Day at a Time, and an episode of gun control that's Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and those would be tackled in completely different ways because of the premise and the characters, etc. There's so much content out there right now. And I think in order to break through the noise, you have to try to find a way of doing it that's a little bit different than what's been out there. Or look, in the case of One Day at a Time, we took a really old school concept. The multi-camera comedy, I grew up on that. I loved it growing up in the 80s. And then it sort of fell out of favor and became not cool. It was a not cool, not sexy way of telling stories. So for me to come in and be like, I'm gonna do a multicam, everyone's like, really? Oh, it's gonna be like a cheesy thing with a laugh track. And I was like, no, I'm gonna try to make it like they did back when Norman Lear was doing it in the 70s and 80s, like real and about stuff and not laughs every 5 seconds, and try to bring new life into this old thing. And that's what we tried to do with that. And we tried to do it in an honest and modern way so that the format was old school, but the things we were talking about and the family that was saying them was modern. And that's how we tried to go about doing that. Where do I find my inspiration? I read a lot. I'm on Twitter a lot. It's interesting to see what people's points of view are, what stories people are covering, what people care about, and then things that are happening in my own family. I think that, for example, I remember my parents have their furniture that they've had since they were first married. So they have a dining room table that has been in my home my entire life. It is pristine and gorgeous. And my mom, I don't know, 30 years ago, I want to say, bought a cover that's felt to cover the top of this mahogany table, okay? So there is, and they spent a lot of money because it's the cutout exactly of this mahogany dining room table. And we'd always have the mahogany table covered with this felt top to make sure it wasn't scratched or anything. Then she bought a tablecloth for the felt cover. And then on top of the tablecloth is a plastic to protect the table. There are 4 layers before you get to the mahogany. So I literally was at the house and I just recorded to Mike Royce. I said, here's the plastic, and then here's the tablecloth, and then here's the felt cover, and then here's the table. And I was like, this is so perfect. Like it was just such a great, caring for your stuff, spending a lot of money. They spent a lot on that table at the time. It was a big sacrifice to buy that table. So they're gonna freaking take care of that table. And then my mother's like, one day you're going to get the table. I'm like, I don't want the table. None of us want the table. My brother and I don't want the table. But what a great character thing. It tells you everything you need to know about my mother because of how she cares for this table. You find stuff in your life. You find stuff in your life that your parents do or that your kids do, or that your spouse does, or that your best friend does. And you start to write in your little notebook, oh my God, here's a little funny thing, and here's a little funny thing, and here's a little funny thing. And all of those things might make it into a story, or might end up being like the background in the pilot of One Day at a Time. She eats her mom's ropa vieja, right? And they had Tupperware on set. Our prop guys got Tupperware, and I said, oh no, we don't do Tupperware. We have like anything, like for us, we think you guys are crazy for buying Tupperware. We reuse everything. If there's like a little plastic thing that the Chinese food comes in, we're washing that 100 times until it falls apart. So I said, I need like a country crock container that's just beat up. And that's what they did. They got all these country crock containers. And then it was something that we never discussed. Just as she's eating the ropa vieja, she opens up the country crock and it's ropa vieja in there, right, that she's eating. It's not something we talked about, but it was a little detail that I put in the script. Once we realized, like, oh, I need to specify that because it's important. The amount of people that reached out to us on Twitter about that specific thing was so overwhelming. And it spoke to, oh, the more specific you can get with these things, the better. It adds dimension, it adds reality. And people like that. So that's something that you can put into the script as in a scene descriptor that makes it a little bit more textured. Try to get very specific with your characters for your pilots. The more specificity you can bring to it, I think the better. And then as we go along on our journey as writers, you might have to change it here or there. You might have to change it depending on the actors that you get. You might have to adjust it. But yeah, start with something specific. I would say start there. Essentials in the pilot are, who are these people? It's really who, what, when, where, why, how, right? It's who are they? What do they want? Where are they? And how are they going to get it? That's really a pilot. That's really like, also, I like to make hangout pilots. I love writing a hangout pilot. I like to, at the end of the pilot, make you feel like, oh yeah, I'd hang out with those guys. Yeah, they seem cool, I'd hang out. I'd do that again. That seemed fun. So that's what, for me personally, needs to go into a pilot. Do I like these people? Would I spend time with them? Did I think they were funny? Did I have a good time reading that, watching that, hearing that? That's what I want out of a pilot. So you have to ask yourself, what are the things that you want? What are the things when you're watching, like maybe you want to be scared or thinking about something or just laughing the whole time and you don't, doesn't matter that they go on a really specific story. I would say the time to experiment is not in the pilot writing to get your representation or to get on a staff. You can do that like later. It's sort of how, they say that Jackson Pollock knew how to paint so that he had to earn the right to do the paint specs to do that because he already knew the essentials of all the other stuff. You have to know the rules before you can break them. So know what the rules are first. And when you're writing this type of writing, pilot writing, writing at the beginning of your career to get represented, to get on staffs, do the basics. Show that you can do the basics really well. And keep doing them. And every year write a new spec sample, write a new original pilot, just to put yourself through the trenches of doing that. It's a lot of work. It's also something that even while you're on staff, you might want to be writing something on the side to keep your voice specific from the show that you're writing, which might be very different than what you like and what you watch. Your first job might not be your dream job, but I've learned something on every show I've ever worked on. Every show. Sometimes it was how not to do stuff, right? Like showrunners that do great things, you'd go, oh my God, they do that and that's amazing, or they do that and that's such a good idea, or oh my God, I would never do that. You gotta figure out what's your way. What do you think are the good things and the bad things about the place you're at? What would you do differently? And then when you have a seat at the table to do it differently, you will. So the question is whether to be mindful of budget when you're writing. And I would say for the purposes of a pilot, that the purpose of it is to get you representation or get you staffed, you don't have to worry about the budget. When you're pitching a show, I think you do need to be mindful because you are asking them to spend money on it. So if you're saying that this takes place in 1892 London and it's a lot of outdoor scenes with, costumes and, all of that is just going to be way more expensive than doing something present day, say in Toronto for Chicago, or, these are things that you should be mindful of when you're pitching. Pitching, you definitely want to try to be mindful of that. But then again, it depends on the place. I think also by the time you are truly pitching to a network, you're going to have people there with you, like a pod. Multicam, single cam. Let's go to the basics, you guys. When you're watching a show, a half hour. There's multi-camera half hours and single camera half hours. And what that means is a multi-camera will have 3 to 4 cameras at the same time shooting. Usually there will be a studio audience. Sometimes now they use canned laughs. One Day at a Time had a live studio audience. And it's one scene that's being taken from many angles. So you have your main camera, you have one camera over here, one camera over here, and one camera over here. And they're all getting, maybe this one's covering an actor, this one's gonna be your wide, this one's covering another actor, and then another one has like a 2-shot, right? But you're watching one scene happen in real time through many different points of view, different angles. But it's usually one proscenium set, like a theater stage. And you're probably only going to be in a couple of different locations. Maybe you're in the living room, you're in the bar, you're at the workplace. Usually it's like that, and it's shot a little bit more flat. A single camera half hour, like a Brooklyn Nine-Nine, like a Superstore, those shows are shot from many different camera angles. It's more shot like a film. So it looks a little bit cooler. It's not one standing set. It's a lot of different sets, a lot of different locations. It can be like Brooklyn Nine-Nine typically is in the police station, but you really get a 360 of what that place looks like. It's not just like a set right here that there's an audience over there. The fourth wall is not broken. They break the fourth wall all the time on those shows. And it tends to have a lot more scenes, a lot more action, and have a need to be told in that way. It's really in how it's shot. It's just shot differently. So multicam shot fourth wall, there's a fourth wall, there's an audience or somebody out here, and single cam is shot more like a film. So it also takes much longer. So I'm gonna talk about multicams because that's the thing that is actually my favorite and the thing I've written on the most. So a multicam is really like a play. So much like a play. An audience comes every week. You are heading up to a show night, and I'm gonna break down what that looks like. For a traditional multicam, let's say it's a Monday to Friday schedule. Monday, you'll have a table read, and all the actors will come in and they'll read it for the writers and producers and the studio and the network, and then they'll get notes. And then on Tuesday, the actors will come back in and read the new version of the script and put it on its feet, and the producers will come down and see what the play of it looks like. Then we'll go and take notes. Then on Wednesday, usually the network and the studio will come and they'll check it out. And then you'll all sit down afterwards after seeing the play of it and take more notes. And then Thursday, you do pre-shoots, anything that might be on what's called a swing set. A swing set is a set that's not your main set. It might be off in the sides of the stage, but mostly all of the stuff that takes place on anywhere where the audience can see it, we shoot it live on Friday. So it's a really packed week. It's very exciting. It is constant rewriting and constant notes and constant tightening and trying to make it better and better and better. Thank you so much for watching. It's not over here, you guys. You can still tweet me at everythinggloria. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. I'm still available to you. So keep asking those questions, keep doing the work. Make sure to watch all of the other Hollywood 101 videos on Pero Like's YouTube channel. This is Gloria Calderón Kellett. Good luck.